it's Annie. Today, in honor of Mother's Day, I invited a very incredible guest to join me to talk a little bit about what it's like to be my mom, maybe, ask some questions, and talk a little bit about how we got to this place in our relationship where she's like my favorite person ever, until, of course, she's not. But we recover really quickly. So, welcome, Mom.
Thank you. Oh, I brought gifts, matching handkerchiefs, because we might need them, because sometimes we cry. Sometimes we laugh so hard we cry. But, just in case.
These are all true things, folks.
My mom taught me to always have a handkerchief.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Well, is there anything you want to say first before I ask some questions?
I'm prayed up,
Okay.
and it's a little overwhelming to talk about our relationship because it's probably become one of the singularly most important things in my life since your dad died. And it's sustained me in so many ways. God's worked so enormously through you to minister to me and to help me come out of my shell of mourning. And so this feels wonderful, and I'm willing to be a little vulnerable. So that's all.
A little in our robes. Just a little.
Whose idea was that?
It was her idea, and I loved it because I think this is fantastic art. So, I had a thought this morning, and it was a brand new thought
Oh my.
about you.
I'm prepared, I think.
And I'm prayed up as well, people. I was awakened at 4:11, and today is 4:11, so that felt pretty powerful. And 4 times 11 is 44, and that's my favorite number. So, but
Yes, so God's in that. Yes.
of course. But I realized we were talking the other day about how much you enjoy the freedom and organic display in your garden. My beloved brother has been helping my mom by sending some landscape guys to come and help her take care of her backyard. But they've been insensitive to the fact that my mom loves what some people would refer to as like common weeds or volunteers. And she literally goes around her backyard and she knows where every little thing is growing, and she can spot the velvety leaves of a volunteer, and she protects them. And so great landscapers instead are looking for meticulous lines and no volunteers. And so these guys have been, unknowingly plowing down some of your precious plants, and it's nearly broken her heart. So we've talked about it a lot in the mornings, and just watching you and listening to you and the way you tend your garden, the thing that I always hear most is how much you just love the freedom, the unmanicured, the unrestrained beauty of nature. And I realized that you parented me the same way that you garden your backyard, and I thought that was something really beautiful. And then I realized that that's also how you've shown me God's love, is because Papa's our gardener, and I think he celebrates the beauty and the natural and the wild in each of us. So can you tell me a little bit more about why you're so enchanted by an unmanicured garden and daughter?
Years ago, you started saying the phrase, the unforced rhythms of grace. And I think that to me is physical evidence of how creation can speak to us. And in the truth of it, where we don't get involved and always have it be our way, to relax. And if God wants to plant a black-eyed Susan in the middle of a lawn that should be manicured, there's something incredible about letting it just flourish there and upset what man has tried to manicure. Interesting, manicure, man. Cure what? And I was remembering this morning how I think maybe one of the hallmarks of how I live freely is because I was raised that way without television. And to be able to explore outside without my parents being afraid.
Before you go too further, like you literally did not have a television, or it was just not on?
Correct. We were in Brazil and there was no such thing. Even though it was,
I mean, there was a such thing, it just wasn't.
Not at first, because it was a third world country, so the technology wasn't down there yet. First,
Okay.
there was radio. And then, of course, I think by the time we left in '65, the wealthiest of the wealthy had it, but it was still a technology that hadn't arrived in South America at that time. And so in my formative years, until I was 11, I never, there was the freedom to not be entertained like that. We would either read in the evenings, listen to music, and then in the daytime when we weren't in school, we'd be outside. And I thought of it as exploring. And we were in a safe compound that was a walled compound. I knew every nook and cranny of that place.
Just like your garden now.
Yes, it was an intimate experience, and it's something I celebrated. And that to have something like that now, that your dad worked hard and provided for me and left me, it is a sanctuary. And I believe God has a protective hedge around my home and around my garden, and it feeds me.
Yeah, it's kind of hard to extract the garden from the covering of Dad and Papa and this wild grace that is bestowed upon us by our heavenly parent, who then teaches us how to earthly parent, which is like the hardest thing to do.
Mm-hmm.
And you sure got one heck of an assignment being my mama.
But you were a promise from the beginning before you were ever born. And God spoke to me so clearly when I was pregnant with you, and I was afraid that your dad would be gone all the time. I wouldn't know you.
Okay, hang on. Before we get, because this is a big part of the story.
Okay.
And before we start that story,
Mm-hmm.
maybe we do start that story. Can you just give us a little context though before you go straight into it? Where were you living? Who were you when you found out there was going to be a me coming along? And then I think that will lead into the exact place you were about to go.
Well, I'd given up my career to be a singer, and because I just wanted to be a stay-at-home mom. I'd had it with being on the road and traveling. But your dad, in order to, that was his specialty, was audio. In order for him to, provide for us, he was on the road, and the more he was on the road, the more he made. And he was working for a sound company in Kentucky, and we lived in a sister city near Paducah called Kevel, population 191. And it was your brother and me, and we planned you. But then once I was pregnant, I thought, what have I done? Because he was gone so much. Dad was gone so much. And I was concerned that, yes, he was there for, the conception, but would he make it for the delivery, And so I was so happy to be pregnant, but just feeling alone. And what have I done? I'm going to, what's this? This isn't what I signed up. And I remember so distinctly one of those moments that's sealed in my memory. Even what the tablecloth looked like and my piano behind me that your dad gave me for my birthday. And I opened up the Bible. I knew that God needed to say something. And I don't think I'd ever opened it up randomly before. It was the first. But I was so desperate, and I opened it up to Psalm 139, and my eyes landed on the verse, I knew you when you were in your mother's womb. And God spoke to me so clearly, and he said, this is a gift, this is a promise. You be happy, you take joy in this pregnancy, because as soon as this baby's born, I promise you that your circumstances will change. And I literally picked up my emotions, picked that back up my joy cup, and I had an incredible pregnancy with you. You came on your due date, April 9th.
It's perfect.
On her due date. That does not happen. And you always have been good at being on time, by the way. 2 days after you were born, I was just getting out of the hospital. Disney called your dad, and they said, we have a job opening in Studio D. Would you like to come interview you? And we didn't have any money. That was before there were bank machines. So we borrowed $200 from a neighbor, and he flew down, and they offered him the job. They gave him a medical checkup, and we were moved 2 weeks after you were born to Disney, to Orlando.
To the Princess Castle.
It changed. It was a great place to raise you all. And the sunshine, the Disney was a different place back then. It was still a little more magical. It still had some magic.
Okay.
Yeah.
So that's good origin point.
Yes.
So as your daughter, having heard that story for 46 years,
It's real.
It feels compelling. It feels real. But there's also a heavy assignment attached to that. This idea that I was a plan and I was a promise, and that Papa whispered into you in your despair and said that you would kind of be delivered through my birth. There have been moments where I have not wanted that heavy of an assignment, and yet I think at 46, I just say, well, none of us get to choose our assignment. I think the point of life is to figure out your assignment and then do it well. So where I'm at now is I feel so honored that not only do I know my origin story, but that you so beautifully and eloquently relay it, and that it is full of promise and hope.
Well, if anything, what life has taught me at 71 is I never learned through the easy times, through the good times. And as I was dealing with your father dying of dementia, and consequently him going to heaven a little bit at a time before he died, I realized deep inside that I was building emotional, spiritual, and mental muscle through it. And I believe, I know it's true because it's in the Word, that when we suffer, we can take heart, because in our suffering it produces something that we can help someone else when they're suffering. And it is worthy. And I don't know anyone who truly has made a difference in this world that has not suffered greatly. I have learned to see with my eyes of experience the true successes in this world that have found, with the foundation of truth behind their success, have suffered greatly.
Right, and it's the dichotomy and the paradox of suffering and joy, right? Because we can't even really truly appreciate joy, which joy in the face of suffering is where true joy is experienced. Shared suffering, teaching through our suffering, accepting that our suffering is a gift to share with others and encourage others. Yeah, I think, again, that kind of just points to that's why we're here,
It sounds so trite in a way, But when you live long enough and you start experiencing the raw hurts of life, the wounds, and yet God meets you there and Jesus holds you, you really do find out where joy and sorrow meet, where they mingle. And that's the richest part of life. That's where the wealth of life lies. Because that's where the appreciation really comes through, is when you don't have the resources to get through it, but miraculously God gives you.
Right, he meets you right there, just
Yes.
like he met you at the table, at the
Yes.
Paisley tablecloth. There's another really fascinating story that you recently told me.
Oh.
And it opened some doors in my mind that I had not even realized existed. And I'm still kind of grappling through, it's like it's been a paradigm shift for me. And that was you recounting to me the story of when I told you what I wanted to be when I grew up, or who I was. You obviously tell the story better, but can you tell me about the day that I announced to you that I was an artist? Can you tell me? Can you like give me some backstory and kind of explain what that was like and how it made you feel?
Oh, I don't remember. You just were expressing your artistry so young. And I remember Dad and me at Christmas and birthdays just giving you stacks of construction paper and all kinds of colored pencils and markers and scissors, anything that we could give you that you could just sit in your room, and you were very quiet and creative and did all kinds of things. You didn't just draw on white paper, you did all kinds of things. Always color. But I don't remember how old you were, but I remember I was standing in your doorway of your room, and you said, Mom, I'm going to be an artist. I'm an artist. That's what I want to do. And it terrified me. And I don't think it's what you think. I don't think it's that I thought you could be anything, because obviously we know that your intellect was more like your dad's. But it was an artist in the truest sense of the word is rarely understood, is usually rejected, and is vastly undercompensated for the amount of time and energy and vulnerability that they put in their art. And I don't know a true artist that hasn't suffered greatly, because a true artist draws out something in the person that doesn't have that. They don't know how to get it.
I see in art the tension between wanting to deliver a message, right? That is what art is. The tension of wanting to deliver a message, and then the opposite is the opposition of vanity, right?
Correct. A humility.
Right. And so there's this, I want to be exposed, I need to be
Do your
exposed
best.
in order to deliver this message,
Yes.
but then I don't want anyone to misinterpret that this message is about me. And yet it kind of is about me because I'm the messenger.
Right.
And that constant tension, I struggle all the time.
The ultimate artist is always expresses their vulnerability.
At some point in our story, I went off the rails for kind of anything that could have possibly been interpreted as good parenting, right? I'm sure anyone looking from the outside in would have been like, what in the world are Bill and Susie thinking, letting her do XYZ?
Mm-hmm.
And of course, we were in the story, right? And there's a lot to that. But in order for our viewer to kind of understand like why what we share is so important, we've had to fight for this.
Absolutely.
This is not the way it's always been, y'all. And I think if anyone has an excuse to kind of be at war and battle, it would have been you and me. And yet we've chosen to fight for the blessing. So I don't know, unpack that from your perspective. Like what did it feel like, and how would you encourage a mom whose daughter has completely seemingly gone off the rails, and just share with us what that felt like and how you made it through?
I think one of my weaknesses, that, any weakness can be made strong with the Lord, when we recognize it, but it's comparison. I'm a middle child. I think that's a middle child thing. I think we tend to compare. One thing that I thought that for you being my daughter, that you would be like me. I don't know why I thought that. But I thought, well, I didn't do those things, and I raised you pretty much like I was raised, so why would you make choices that I didn't make, I wasn't tempted to make? I was obviously, I don't know why. It was just a fluke in the way I thought. And so I was blind for a long time to some of your shenanigans, some of your lies. Not dealing with the truth is just as bad. And being blind to the truth in front of you because you don't want to face it. So it was, well, I wouldn't make those decisions or choices, and so I couldn't handle the truth of where you were. And so I kind of ignored it and thought, well, maybe it's my imagination, or I go in these cycles. Your dad would be traveling, and it was almost more than I could manage. And so instead of looking at you and facing it, I ignored it. And the other part was fear, raw fear, that if I confronted you, our relationship would be severed, that you would reject me. So it was fear of rejection, that you would feel I was rejecting you and you would reject me.
Okay, so yes, I think moms, now I'm a mom now, so we're having this conversation, and I'm hearing you talk about parenting me, but I'm also experiencing relativity, because, mamas, that fear of being rejected by our own babies, it seems counterintuitive, right? Because we're the mamas.
Or that they feel that we're rejecting them because we're calling them out on their poor choices.
So the fear of rejection is, and I call it mom guilt, just like this overwhelming central experience that was birthed in me the moment I found out I was carrying a child that still lives within me. And that is a continuation of you and your mom and every mother that's come before us, right? And how to navigate that without losing your mind, without losing your faith, without losing your child. And if there are pauses in connection, if there are pauses in intimacy and closeness, how to get that back, right? I was rebellious, period. Once I tasted rebellion, I was done. And honestly, I tasted rebellion early. And I was smart enough to kind of lie my way through the system. I was ready to do life on my own, even though I was not equipped with life experience or wisdom or money or anything but I was ready to go. I was ready to.
But you were suffering, and I didn't see that.
I don't know that I don't know. I think that part was so hidden. That part was so deeply hidden in me that it wasn't necessarily what I was projecting.
But I sensed that too. I really
it.
did. And we didn't know why until we started fighting for the blessing, and we were able to unearth some of the whys and get back to rock bottom to build something even more precious and beautiful. But you, in all of that, with all of the pain, it was worth to get where we are, because it forced me to face the truth, not only of my daughter, but of myself. It's real easy for me to compare and say, well, I wouldn't do that, but what had I done? What was I guilty of being secretive about, of not being honest with myself and before God about? Because we all have those things that we deal with.
So daughters, I would like in this moment to kind of speak to you that it's not your mama's job to go and track you down after a certain point. You know, if you've rebelled, if you've walked away, if you've pushed your mom away, if you've chosen a different path and thought maybe your mom just doesn't understand, she doesn't get it. There were a lot of things about my life that my mom still doesn't understand. At some point, I had to realize that it was my responsibility, and it's actually my assignment, number five in the 10, right in the middle, is honor thy father and thy mother, for the days of your life will be long and prosperous. And I knew that it was my job to relentlessly pursue a precious relationship with you, which included apologizing, it included confessing, it included getting to know you as a woman and not forcing you into this little tiny box where you just were my mom. The day that or the season in which I accepted that you had so much more to your identity than being Annie Thrasher's mom. Like that, children, that's a gift you can give your mom. See her as more than just your mom, right? Be willing to listen to her stories and find out what made her her. And so what my mom and I share that I wanted to capture, that I wanted to share with you, is not easy. So that's a little bit more of the story to celebrate Mother's Day with my mama, and give you a little bit more of a glimpse as to what it really looks like kind of behind the scenes, who we really are, why it's important to be
real with your own mama and daughter.
Yeah. I would invite you maybe to sit down and turn on the camera and ask your mom some questions. And if you haven't gotten to the place where you just tell your mom the truth about everything, even the stuff that you're really embarrassed about, if you haven't gotten to that place yet, just try it. I mean, worst case scenario, you're right. She's going to judge you and tell you that you're a horrible human being, and she'll reject you. But
then she's not facing her own truth, because you start telling her the truth, and mamas, you can start telling your daughters the truth and walk in that freedom. And that's the beginning of fighting for the blessing. Because you learned some things about me too, didn't you?
I did. And the truth is what obviously sets us as individuals free, but it sets mamas and daughters free too. So cheers, Mom. Thank you for never giving up on me.
Never will.
But also being so real and such an incredible example of what it looks like to be a woman and a mom too.
And you inspire me every day, and you help me be better. Thank you.
Now, go love your mama and hug your mama and tell your mama the truth. And be blessed. And I would like to say that we probably both love you and we both mean it. So happy Mother's Day to all the mamas out there. And thank you, Mama.
Love you.
I love you.